I'm going to restart this live video because I had problems with my connection. So hopefully this one will go through without being interrupted by poor signal. So I want to talk about vegan diets because there was a study that came out that came to the conclusion a few months ago that vegan diets were healthier for dogs. And I thought that is counterintuitive, so I need to check it out and actually look at the data and see how they came to that conclusion. And you'll see it all over the place. It's been reported all over the media. And you know what? It's a simple case of when they say to follow the science, then you should be suspicious every time they say that and check it out for yourself, okay? Because this is a very clear case of misrepresenting the facts. So let me share those facts with you now. So I looked at the study, the original study, and I'll just tell you that it was based on about 2,500 dogs. It's not that many dogs. They live with their owners. Some were on a vegan diet at the start of the study, some were on a conventionally meat-based diet, and some were on raw-fed diet. And they followed them for 1 year, and they measured how many times they went to the vet and for what reasons. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So what did they find to make them conclude that vegan diets were healthier? You're going to be very interested to hear what they actually found. So the first thing was that dogs fed a raw-fed diet were only half as likely to need a vet over that year as dogs in the other groups. Half as likely, okay? So that's pretty remarkable. That was vegan dogs also need the vet just as much as conventionally fed dogs. But raw-fed dogs only half as likely to need the vet. Dogs fed raw were 4 times less likely to need to switch to a prescription diet because of some sort of health issue over that year than dogs in the dogs in the vegan group, and 7 times less likely to need to switch to a prescription diet than dogs in the conventionally fed group. That is a huge result. So they didn't need to have special diet because they were making bladder stones, or because they had liver problems, or because they had skin disorders based on allergies or whatever. That's a huge difference between the groups. 7 times less likely than conventional, and only 1/4 as likely as the vegan dogs to need a prescription diet. Another one was that if they were unwell at the beginning of the study, then dogs that were fed raw did remarkably better than dogs in the other categories. They stayed healthier over the year if they weren't well at the beginning of the study. So that's another one, right? Now, why are they concluding that vegan diets are healthier? I'm scratching my head here. Another one, raw-fed dogs showed half the risk of a range of health issues. Half the risk of the conventional meat-based diets, okay? Half the risk of things like gastrointestinal disorders like diarrhea and vomiting, body weight problems, hormone problems, urinary tract problems, intestinal parasites, and liver issues, okay? That's a huge difference. In a study, that is really huge. And of course, interesting, I should say, they also showed lower risk of behavioural problems if they were fed raw, which is interesting. Now, despite all these findings, the study itself concluded, and I'll read it out to you, that the healthiest and least hazardous dietary choices for dogs were nutritionally sound vegan diets. Now, they had, of course, admitted all the healthy benefits of raw-fed that they found in the study, but they discounted them. Now, one way they discounted them was they said, oh, the dogs in the raw-fed diet group were younger. They were significantly younger than the other dogs, so of course they were healthier. So we can explain away all our findings because they were younger. They were younger, but not much. Let me just give you the stats on that. So the average age of the average dog in the study across all the groups was 6.2 years old. So about middle-aged dogs. And for the raw meat diet, it was 5.5 years was the average age. So, you know, maybe 6 or 7 months difference, maybe 8 months if I stretch it. in average age, at that age, yeah, we might have some influence, but it's only going to be very slight. It can't explain away all of those benefits of the raw-fed diet. It just can't. So yeah, you know, when I had a look at this, I thought to myself, why are they lying? You know? And so I had to look at to see who had actually funded the study. And surprise, surprise, it was an organisation called Pro Veg International, which is a vegan group. Okay? A vegan group. They funded the study. So it's not surprising. Obviously, they paid to get the conclusion that they were looking for, and the researchers obliged by giving them what they wanted for their money. So I hope you found that interesting. Raw fed is great. One of the things the study said was, you know, we can't guarantee that raw fed diets are balanced because they're in the hands of the owner, right? So even though they said there's a risk those diets are not balanced, they still admitted that the dogs were healthier by their findings. So just imagine if you're feeding a balanced raw-fed diet, how much even healthier your dogs could be. So I'll leave you with that thought, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.